Okay. Good morning, Cedar Rapids. Hey, salutations. Okay.
Brothers, let us all unite!
You would rather have us keep the internet than have peace in the world. Like, no, I gotta have my internet.
Live in front of an internet audience. I am dying. If you can't tell by my voice, I am dead today. Hello, everyone. This is the new and improved I Am Clifford Today show. I'm working with a new program today. So I think things should move a lot smoother, maybe a little differently, but not too bad. And also, you can see my cough drops in right here. Got a new setup here. You guys watching the video, hope you enjoy it. Everyone listening on audio is missing out, but I thought that my backdrop needed to change because it was just looking too trashy, So yeah. Intro music by John Bartman. Fichten Moped, Feisten Moped, I think, is here. Good evening, sir. Welcome. Good to see you here. I still don't know if I'm pronouncing your name right, but good to see you here. Yeah, intro music by John Bartman, and today we are joined by album of the week, "The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway" by Genesis. It's a fantastic concept album. So if you guys can't tell by my voice, it was a lot worse earlier today. I sounded like Ian McShane, honestly, which is too bad because it sounded a little sexy, I guess, sort of. Yeah, I'm sick. I think I've got a little bit of a cold and a fever. I was feeling a lot worse earlier, but honestly, the magic of ibuprofen is incredible. And anytime I take ibuprofen, I automatically have the energy that I need. But okay, Fichten Moped. I'm pretty sure. I guess we got chat going on on both. I didn't know that it would actually come through on OBS. That's cool though. Nearly perfect. All right. I'll work on it. Thank you for your patience. So yeah, not feeling the best, but the good thing is that I don't actually have to do a whole lot today because we actually have an interview. I have a guest on for this show, but our interview was pre-recorded, so I don't have to talk for that much today. I mean, I will be here. This is all live. What I'm doing right now is live, but our interview was pre-recorded, so that whole section, is not live. But I'll still be here. I'll still be sticking around. I'll be here. And, of course, I'm here for the beginning. And I'll be here, for when we go into a break and then come back. And then I'll be here at the end, of course, we got to have some Christian music reviews. So we got some good stuff to talk about near the end. But, man, it's interesting. Like, I have so much energy right now. I didn't before. But we'll see how long it lasts. And also, I'm sweating a lot. Like, I don't feel as feverish as I did before, but I am sweating a lot. So pray that I don't die of dehydration or anything. So, but yeah. Also, I'm working on not saying so much. I had a friend tell me that I don't think it's corona. We'll see. There I go again. We'll see if it gets worse. I'll probably get tested. But I've just been kind of staying home anyways. Don't really have much anywhere to go. But I was going to say that, but yeah, keep me in your prayers, guys, so that I feel better. But yeah, I'm trying to practice not saying so much, because I do say it a lot. I have noticed. So I learned that I watched a video, and I learned that the key is to learn to just close your mouth. That's kind of the key, is to close your mouth when you're not speaking, because usually the reason why people say and a lot is because they're keeping their mouth open when they're not speaking. So I'm trying to practice doing that so I can be a better speaker. I need to learn to be precise with my speech. So yeah, different episode today, but I'm glad you guys are still here checking it out. Just wanted to remind you guys that I still have merch. I got merch, got some new shirts. So if you guys want to check that out, got shirts, got mugs, got stickers. So link in the description so that you guys can see all that and shop. If you want to support me, want to support a sick boy like me, you can check those out. And I think it's some pretty cool stuff. And I'm gonna probably come out with some more cool designs that you guys might like. So be on the lookout for that. But yeah, link in the description for those, for shirts, for stickers, for mugs. Not even just shirts, but I got hoodies and such. It's pretty cool. So be sure to check those out. And also remind you guys, I am off of social media. Oh, I should have had the card up so that you guys had the email. I mentioned in the last episode that I'm off social media for the month, with some exceptions, of course. I mean, I'm streaming to YouTube and to Twitch today, but I'm off of Facebook, off of Instagram, off of Twitter. I'm off the grid for the most part. And I'm going to have a big episode when I come back, when I react to any news that I might have missed in the month of August. And I think it's going to be pretty fun. And if you guys want to help out, I'm going to leave something in the description or email so that you guys can send some stories that maybe comes up that you think that I should react to. And I'm thinking mostly Christian news and such. So, but anything else, anything big, would be much appreciated. So, different episode today. This is my first interview with a guy that I met at AudioFeed. He's a good guy, Benjamin Daniel. And I don't think that I'm going to make doing interviews a common thing on here. I'm not going to become an interview podcast. That's not my intention. I just sometimes there's some people that I really connect with, that I really want to have a conversation with. And Benjamin was one of those dudes. I met him and I interviewed him at AudioFeed for my AudioFeed video. Be on the lookout for that when that's out. It might be a little while, but it's coming out. And Benjamin Daniel was just one of those people that I really connected with, and felt like we were kindred spirits in a way. And so I asked him, "Hey, do you want to be a guest on my show for an interview?" And he was like, "Yeah, absolutely." So I really appreciate him doing this. He might be watching now. I don't know. Kind of depends on if he was able to do it. But either way, I mean, he might be watching now live. But if you are, be sure to say hi, Benjamin. in the chats. Anyone else who's here, be sure to say hi in the chats. Love to see some greetings for you guys. So yeah, we're gonna get into the interview, and like I said, I'm gonna be back after it. This interview was recorded about a week ago. Actually, yeah, it was last Saturday, and we had some confusion with the time zones because he's in California and I'm here in Illinois. What's up, Agent Serenity? Hello. Welcome back to the chat. Good to see you. So yeah, we're gonna get right to it. Just a little introduction to Benjamin Daniel. I'm gonna read what he has written in his Spotify. Singer-songwriter Benjamin Daniel made his lyrically arresting debut just a short year and a half ago with Shaping Season Volume 1. While choosing to eschew a Shaping Season Volume 2 entry in succession may leave some scratching their heads, one listen through his sophomore offering, Shelter Heart, will quickly quell any consternation. I love how he wrote this. This is an album made about community and for the community we live in, specifically for the present time. In short, it's a record in service of the need of the moment, and it's a fine one at that. And I agree, actually. Shelter Heart is an amazing album. And if you want to know what he sounds like, good explanation, a good description is folk, acoustic. Some of it is worshipful in a way, but it's still very personal. And if you want anyone to compare it to, I mean, we talk about him, but Andrew Peterson is a good artist to compare to, and it just so happens that his album was produced by his son, actually. And Benjamin Daniel was included in, I think it was last year's Jesus Freak Hideout's one of the top best indie albums of the year. Pretty sure, yeah, it would have been last year. So that's a pretty big deal, and we talk more about that in the interview. So without further ado, here is my also we get into at the beginning an interesting conversation about fast food. So that'll be interesting. So without further ado, here is my conversation with Benjamin Daniel. Do you like Arby's? What are your thoughts on Arby's? It's the big question that we're starting off with.
That's a great question.
I have my opinion.
I really like Arby's. I think Arby's is kind of low-key one of the better fast food chains.
Really?
I do. I think their curly fries, I didn't used to love them when I was a kid, but as I've gotten older, they just really hit.
Curly fries, yeah.
Their sandwiches, their French dip is good. Yeah, I feel like you just can't really, for me, I can't really go wrong with Arby's. They have good mozzarella sticks. I'd say that they're quite a cut above like Sonic in their, their mozzarella sticks.
See, I like Sonic because of their ice cream. I don't really care too much about like their regular food, or like their cherry limeades. I think those are pretty good.
Yeah, the cherry limeades are
so refreshing. But my thing with Arby's is that like I like Arby's, but only for like the one thing that I get, and it's like the simplest. I usually just get a classic roast beef sandwich, and that can hit the spot, especially with like curly fries and like a drink. But like the one time that I tried something else, I thought it was kind of gross. I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna get adventurous again.
Hey, roast beef sandwich, I mean that's all you need with like the Arby's sauce or whatever.
I mean, honestly, I have them plain. I just have the roast beef and the bread, and for some reason that works for me.
Huh?
I don't know what it is. It's like I don't need any condiments in there, which I usually don't eat plain sandwiches. I like condiments, but like their bread and their roast beef suddenly for some reason works well.
You do get the curly fries though with it, right?
Oh yes.
Okay, yeah.
Curly fries, and usually Usually like a Dr. Pepper or something. I think they serve Dr. Pepper there.
So good.
Either Dr. Pepper or Pibb, Mr. Pibb. I don't remember.
I have some gluten issues, which I don't always abide by the rules I should abide by.
Break the rules
but
sometimes.
So I don't eat at Arby's hardly ever because of that. But if I didn't have any issues, I'd probably eat at Arby's pretty often. Although I don't think we have as many out in California as we did in Georgia.
As many Arby's?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Arby's is another one of those restaurants where I'm like, man, I guess they're still kicking it. I guess they're still in business. Cause like I don't really ever see that many people there.
Yeah.
Same for Burger King.
Not many people thinking Arby's, I guess, apparently.
Yeah, I mean,
advertised.
I don't know.
Burger King's just I could go into a Burger King rant, but it's just gone downhill.
I hate Burger King, honestly. I used to love it as a kid, and I would get their chicken nuggets, and I loved their like their ices, like their cherry ices and such. But like I stopped going there for a while, and then like one day, it was like a few years ago, I was like, I haven't been to Burger King in a while. I wonder why that is. And I go to Burger King drive-thru and I have a burger. I'm like, and now I remember why I don't go to Burger King anymore.
The best thing to me about Burger King is that I was on the softball team, and this guy, Jeremy, who's one of my teammates, it was a church softball team, so we all went to church together. My initials are BK, so when I come up to the plate, away BK, and that always pumps me up.
Nice.
So that's about Burger King, but I never go to Burger King.
I mean, you gotta respect Burger King. I mean, like they were the ones they used to be like toe to toe with McDonald's.
Be the Burger Kings, evidently.
And I don't know why they shouldn't have gotten rid of their Burger King mascot. I loved him. He was so weird and goofy, but I guess people got afraid of him or something. He just like show up in his like stupid smiling face, and it's like, and it was great. Did you know they used to? Sorry, we'll get into like actual talk about your music, but I love talking about this kind of stuff.
I like talking about the Burger King mascot.
Yeah, they had a video game. I saw someone on YouTube play it where you play as the Burger King guy, just sneaking around.
Sneak up behind people and scare them.
Yes, and you give them food, and that was the goal of the game.
And every time the little characters in the game are just like they like do this little jolt.
It's like, look.
And they just, thank you, and they have
it's like, cool. Coffee, cool. You just have to wait in the bushes and like hope that they want food. It's like, and then you just jump out of the bushes. It's like, here, a burger.
In real life, I wouldn't accept food in that kind of circumstance. Probably.
Oh, I was gonna say, I wish that happened in real life. If I'm hungry, then the Burger King just pops out.
This is totally not suspicious.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the downside is that it would be Burger King food. So, but
their burgers they're not too bad.
My issue was the burgers. I didn't like the burgers, but I guess taste is subjective. But anyway,
it's like instead of the Burger King, it would be like the burger peasant or something. Stupid joke, but
I mean, yeah, maybe that's what they should call themselves now. But
burger peasants.
Mm-hmm. So I'm not sure if there's any way to fix this. We might just have to roll with it. But your audio, like I can hear you, but there is like a clipping sound. But we might just have to roll with it. It's not too bad.
How much, like, is it a constant sound?
It's only like when you talk, it's like a little clipping sound.
Just
but yeah. But I mean, I think we can just roll with it, you know.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm just saying, like, apologies to anyone if that bothers anyone, but at least we can still hear you fine.
Okay.
But yeah, so thanks for the Burger King talk. And by the way, so this is going to be pre-recorded. I mean, my show is live streamed, but I think what I'm going to do is just kind of like I'll like start with like a live intro, and then I'll be like, here's the interview, and then play it for a while, and I get to sit back and uh, just chill for a little while watching the interview. But we're doing this like a week in advance, and the show will be up next Saturday. But yeah, so also, do you go like by Ben or Benjamin, or does it matter really? Just in everyday life.
I alternate every day.
Okay.
No, I just Ben is fine. Benjamin, I have a few friends that call me Benji, but that's
Benji, like the dog.
Like the dog, yeah.
Yeah.
But Ben or Benjamin is perfectly fine.
Cool.
I don't really care what people call me.
Right. I get that question too. And it's kind of interesting how serious people take it. Like, I get some people who are like, by the way, do you go by Clifford or Cliff? I'm like, no, it's fine. I don't really care.
Or like Cliffy from Cheers.
Oh no, I haven't watched Cheers. I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah, I just more options, but
Cliffy, no, that is I haven't heard that one. I mean, every time that I introduce myself, people are like, "Oh, like the big red dog." And I was like, "Yeah."
Benji, Clifford,
Oh yeah, there's something else we got in common. Yeah, except I was named after my dad, and he was named after his grandpa, so it's just a name that runs in the family. But so we met in person at Audio Feed, and that was your first time playing at Audio Feed, right? Or had you played there before? I forget.
That was my first time playing, first time at the festival, first time at any music festival, period. So yeah.
Okay. So how long you've been doing music for a few years? Like, you had your first album out in 2020, right?
Yeah, first album came out April 2020, kind of right in the height of COVID.
Right.
But I've been working on music for probably 4 or 5 years up to that point. So
okay.
Some local shows and coffee shops, mostly with friends, but having those opportunities to play. So I've been in it probably for now, I'd say 7 years.
Okay. And was that basically your upbringing, was doing music?
I'd say yeah. Yes and no. I've been really blessed by the family that God put me in. Just a very musically inclined family. I'm the youngest of 4, and there's always music going on in the house. My older brother Matt took up guitar when he was 14 and I was 11, so he was always playing it, and he would write stuff, and so I was around that. But it was also always encouraged. Like, if anything, some houses I hear, it's like people are kind of the outlier, and it's weird. Artist, it was actually kind of pushed in my house. Like, you should do this, and I actually kind of pushed back against it. I didn't play anything at the time, and I mostly just sang. Like, I sang in church.
Okay.
And stopped for a while, kind of in my teenage years. But that's when I discovered bands like Amberlin was a huge band for me. And most of the music I discovered through my older siblings. So I got I had the great experience of getting some of the music passed down to me, and then just growing up with like James Taylor all the time with my dad and Bruce Hornsby. He'd be listening to those guys. And then, so I think, long story short, I was raised in a musical family for the most part, and I think that welcomed music and art, and that cultivated a really, it honestly, it was something I maybe fought more.
Yeah.
Had to like go out of my way to embrace. And then in 2015, I just kind of sat down with the guitar, had a song idea, and I didn't know any guitar, but I just tried to come up with something. And I realized, this is something I could do if I wanted to.
So you didn't know how to play it. You just kind of picked it up and just started playing what sounded good.
I still don't totally really know what I'm doing. So,
I mean, that's a talent in itself, just kind of playing by ear mostly.
Yeah, it's mostly by ear. That's the one thing that I can say. I don't totally know where that comes from. I mean, my family, I think everyone in my family has a good musical ear, but those are things that the Lord gives you, and you're kind of like, I don't know where this came from. I've always kind of had it. And so I actually don't know any theory. I just kind of, it's all by ear. It's like playing blind, kind of, where it's just feeling things out and muscle memory and sound and just building stuff on top of that.
They pull it off really well. Like I mean, I don't know. I guess I can't tell for sure in your music whether it's actually you playing or not, but I assume that it's you. And it's like some of it is, I hear, I'm like, wow, that's like some really complex finger picking right there. So you've never taken any lessons at all or anything? Wow.
No lesson. Yeah, just I just sit down and I think, oh, this sounds cool. Let's build off of this. That's kind of how it ends up being.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you and I are pretty similar in that way. As I grew up musical as well, and my mom taught me piano at a young age, but it's been years since I've had a lesson, and I kind of spoiled myself learning to play by ear, and now that's like all that I do. Like if you put music sheets in front of me, I'd be like, I don't understand this anymore. Like I kind of understand this, but I don't expect me to play this. But like I can play pretty competently, like on like keyboard and such, but not classically anymore.
It's a different language to me. I mean, music by sight. I actually sat down with the bassist, a guy named Ben. Actually, is his name.
Okay.
He's the bassist of the worship band at my church, and he's a brilliant musician. He sat down with me to chart out the songs on Shelter Heart. We've done a few so far, and I'm discovering things about my songs that I didn't know existed because I'm just going by sound. And he's like,
right,
pretty interesting thing you did here. And I'm like, oh, really? Nice.
It wasn't? Okay.
I had no idea. So it's like it's really cool now to kind of have that bridge. But I know nothing. I just do what I can by what I hear.
No, yeah, I think that's great, and I feel like that there are two types of musicians: the ones that are really super talented and can play really complex like musical pieces because they read what's on the sheet and are like, oh yeah, like I can do this and that. But ask them to do like what you do, they're like, no, I can't do that. You know. Yeah. It's really interesting how musicians can be different in ways. So I'm curious about your songwriting method. Do you usually have like a back catalog of like hundreds of songs, or are you usually kind of like me where you just kind of like wait for inspiration to just kind of appear out of nowhere and you're like, okay, this is a song that I'm gonna work on now? You know, I mean, is it different than either of those examples that I gave?
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of songs. I mean, I've written probably over 100 songs at this point total.
Wow.
But yeah, so I do have, I guess, that back catalog, as it were, of like some songs that won't see the light of day, other songs I'm really excited to put out that are in future records, and then others that, you know, some that didn't make Shelter Heart that I'm sending out to backers in the next few months of that project. So there's a lot of different songs. For me, it's, I mean, kind of what you explained about yourself, like waiting for inspiration to come. The best way I can describe it is usually I have something I'm working through, and just a spiritual issue, or just something that's happened that's really disturbed me, or I'm trying to figure out. And songwriting has kind of become my journaling. I'm not very great at journaling.
Me neither.
And so I find that they just kind of come out naturally as I'm trying to reckon with different questions. Like 73 in Silence was written, it was the first song I wrote when I moved out to California. Wrote it about, I think, a month after I got out here. And that was the first time that I had experienced, I'd never moved. So it was the first time I'd experienced that feeling of nobody who has been my, no one who has grounded me is around right now.
So you're just on your own.
And so how do I think about this moment, and thinking about it biblically, because that's what is on my heart. You know, it's not something I force into songs. It just is something that is kind of an overflow, you know, taking a thought that's heavy, I'm alone, and then addressing it with, okay, how should I think about being alone, and what's the solution here? And so like in that song, the big thing I was thinking about was I miss my friends so much. And the response that ended up kind of being the hook of the song is just like, what's the purpose of those friends if they weren't to point you to Jesus? And if you can't be with Jesus now, then what's the point of any of it, you know? Now that I'm alone with him, this is actually an opportunity, even though it's really, really hard. That doesn't change that it's hard, but there's actually opportunity in it. So I think that's songwriting for me is almost like taking really difficult circumstances and seeing the God-given potential in those circumstances, for what he is doing in my life and what he's teaching me in those moments. And I've not found another medium that I can do that with to the same degree. I mean, it's become very personal, where it's almost weird to put stuff out now because it doesn't feel removed from my life at all. And my life is pretty mundane. So like the you know, the rock star aspect of it, which I've not really experienced much of. Audio feed was the most I've ever experienced, that being on the stage. But even just promotion and those things are kind of surreal, because I'm literally just living life and writing about it.
Yeah.
And now suddenly, like, it's a song, and I'm it's a blessing. It's cool. I love that. But it's definitely, it throws me for a loop sometimes.
All right. Okay, so we're going to take a little break in the middle of this interview. Sorry, everyone, for all the craziness going on. And as you can see, some things have changed. Just for the rest of the show, we're going to have to deal with these black bars on the side if anyone's watching the video. I hope you guys are enjoying the interview, though. I think the video is a lot smoother now, but anyways, there's some technical stuff, and we'll talk about it later. But right now, we got to go into a break, and we'll get back into the conversation. And so don't go away. We'll be right back. All right, we're back. I'm sorry, I love this song. It's so fun. All right, back to the show. Back to it. Just wanted to take a little break, a little ad break for our audio listeners. Agent Serenity's like refills popcorn bucket. That's hilarious. All right, so we're going back to the conversation. You'll just need to give me a second. I did have things ready beforehand, but when everything kind of shut down on me, I kind of have to restart a few things. So getting back to our conversation with Benjamin Daniel. Oh, and by the way, feel free to leave any comments even during this section of the podcast. If you guys have any thoughts or like anything that Benjamin says or anything that you're like, oh yeah, that's interesting, blah 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 blah. Feel free to interact as we go through this show. So let's see if we can get. I mean, like you. Here we go. I've taken a look at your social meds, as I call them, and you've had a bit of success. Like you were. I saw that you were like on some of Jesus Freak Hideouts lists, and like that's a pretty big deal. I mean, you were on their podcast as well, right?
Yeah.
So is that like another one of those like surreal moments, like to be on those lists with all those artists and being on their show?
Yeah. Well, Jesus Freak Hideout was they were the website that kind of raised me, where I found so many great artists. It was the website that really taught me that Christian music is really, really good. Like there's amazing Christian music out there that people just aren't listening to. Bands like Falling Up, which they really rep a lot. Incredible bands that nobody knows. Their earlier kind of new metal-y stuff is the popular stuff, and it's fine. But then they became this amazing kind of indie rock, almost progressive-y kind of band that went under the radar. And you have a website like Jesus Freak Hideout promoting bands like that. They've just really been, they've solidified so many favorite bands for me. And so to be on that list, I followed that list for 12 years, and I'm always excited to see who's on the list and who's number one. And I even memorized like a few number ones on that list. So to see to see my album like on the top of that list, for some people it's like they might not know the website and they're like, that's cool, but for me, I'm like, this is crazy. It's like an Academy Award or something.
I mean, they are like the I mean, I guess they cover not just indie music, but they cover like Christian music, like all over the spectrum, but like they are just kind of like the voice to they bring voices to all the different Christian artists of whether they're independent or mainstream. And so I wouldn't say that I don't think I really knew about them growing up. I think they were more of a maybe more recent discovery for me, like within the past 10 years. But they kind of became the place where like if I listen to like a Christian album, be like, oh, I wonder what Jesus Freak Hideout thinks about this one. And I try to pay attention to all the stuff that they're posting. But did you know about them adding you on the list, or did you just kind of see it when they posted it?
I saw it when they posted it. So it caught me off guard. I knew my record was being received well, so my thought was maybe I'll get on the list, which would be insane. I know that my thought process was, I know I can't beat Switchfoot, Need to Breathe, and John Foreman's albums because they love those guys. So maybe that's how I could get like 5th or 4th because I knew it had been received well. And when I saw the list, my mind was blown. I just couldn't believe it.
I mean, it's a really good album. I've been listening to it since our meeting in audio feed, and just so that the listeners know, The album was produced, correct me if I'm wrong, it was a relative of Andrew Peterson, correct?
Hmm? Yeah,
Yeah.
Andrew Peterson's son, Asher. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah. So how was that working with him?
It was awesome. Andrew Peterson's kind of the reason I'm doing music on a on a human level.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have any basis for even knowing what I want to do with my songs if not for how the Lord's used his stuff in my life. So so yeah, connecting with Asher was, I just sent him an email because I loved the stuff that he was putting out with his band Wake Low with the other Peterson siblings.
Oh, okay. I haven't heard that stuff.
Yeah, and then he has another project called Namo. It's Namo.
Okay.
And there's a song. It's kind of more of a collaborative project, but he did all the production, and I just loved what I was hearing from him, and it sounded like the kind of sound I wanted to go for. And so I emailed him. He responded, and a year later we were in the studio, and it was amazing. I mean, I've never had a studio experience before, like a proper studio experience. And I just don't know. I don't really know how I'll have another experience that is as good. It was like kind of beginning here. And I love the work he did on it. It's fun because I'm proud of the songs. I'm thankful that I had the opportunity to write them, and Asher kept them the way I wrote them for the most part. There wasn't any big changes, but all the production work, a lot of the additional instrumentation is Asher. So it's fun to be able to look at it and be like, man, like my songs sound really good, but it's not as good to me. I think any of that.
There is
share the glory.
Yeah, there is like I've realized growing up that there really is something to a really good producer, and I've kind of learned to not only just pay attention to certain artists but also certain producers. And I mean, maybe some people don't even really care about the producer because, you know, it's like they're not the artist, they're not the person singing. But when you pay attention to certain producers and you listen to their stuff, you can kind of you can distinguish their fingerprint on the work, and it's really interesting. A good producer goes a long way for sure. One thing that I really love about your latest album is like I love, you know, of course your I guess your signature is like the really awesome chill acoustic kind of sound, kind of folksy, but I love how it's like it's chill yet it's not boring and it's not like sleepy. And sometimes there are some albums that I listen to that go for that route, and it's just like, oh yeah, this is nice and pretty, but I'm kind of falling asleep. But the production on it keeps it really interesting to listen to, especially if you got good headphones. So that's something that I really appreciate it
Good
about
to hear,
it,
man.
Yeah.
Glad it hits you that way.
Oh yeah. I've always kind of weirdly had an appreciation for the nice, pretty acoustic sound. Like even as a kid, like I was never like, some of my family members would listen to a lot of jazz, and I wasn't really into jazz as a kid, but I loved it whenever there was like anything calming and soothing and like more acousticy kind of sounding. Would you say that was similar to you growing up at all?
That just really loving that calm acoustic sound.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, James Taylor I brought up earlier.
Oh right, yeah.
Haven's Call was like my first favorite band.
Oh yeah.
Where they kind of blended what I loved about some of the music my dad and my mom kind of raised me up on, and then they brought in scripture and theology into into songs, but also it was a little bit weird too.
Yeah, they got a little funky.
Yeah, so I loved their stuff so much. So I've always been a huge fan of that, and then Andrew Peterson's my favorite.
Yeah.
all time, and his stuff is sometimes I have trouble getting people into his stuff because it's so unassuming. But I tell people, give it time because it's gonna really have an impact. But
yeah, I mean,
I love that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, he has great lyricism. And I mean, I think a lot of people now can say that they like Andrew Peterson because his song "Is He Worthy" has become pretty popular, even though Chris Tomlin and everyone has covered it, so maybe they don't even know the original. But did you ever get to meet Andrew Peterson?
I have. It's kind of funny. He was out of town when I was recording with Asher.
Mm.
And I was just back in Nashville before Audio Feed, and I think he was out of town then. I have met him after I've met him after shows before I was really putting music out.
Mm-hmm.
And, I joke around like I hope he's forgotten those times because he's great. Like he always was free to be around after concerts. I don't regret talking with him because he just made himself available. But it was one of those things where I just know because he talked to so many people, he probably got to a point where he recognized me but didn't know who I was.
Oh,
we talked to where I'm like, at one point I'm like, dude, I should probably stop.
Yeah.
Instead, I'm just going to record an album with his son, and then
that
won't be weird at all. No, but no, he's great. One of the things I love about Andrew is I would call him like my hero from a songwriting standpoint, but the humility of his art implies that you can't really put him on a pedestal or elevate him to an unhealthy level because it's just so unassuming. And that's why I love his stuff. It's like the musical equivalent to me of having a really deep, meaningful conversation with my mentor. So I haven't really properly talked to him. But I would love to be able to sit down and have a conversation with him.
Yeah. Andrew, if you're listening to this, you can shoot a message to Ben, and it would mean a lot to him. But yeah, I totally get that about having, I guess, heroes in your life, but those heroes are like so humble and they probably even wouldn't be comfortable being called a hero. So it's like, oh, you mean like so much to me, but at the same time, also as a Christian, I don't want to make an idol out of you or anything. It's like, I feel the same about people like Keith Green was always a hero to me, or like Peter Furler, people like that. It's like I just appreciate you as a person, and you're a good role model and everything. And it's kind of like a weird I don't know what the word for it would be, but yeah, I don't know. I just wanted to add to that how I totally understand that.
Well, the interesting thing about that too is I've had the opportunity to get to know people within the scene who I really look up to. And even just in small ways. And I mean, it just is inevitable. Not that you're disappointed by people, but once you start talking to people, as you build relationships with them, they become less impressive. You love them more, but that kind of distance.
It's like, oh, you're just like me.
Yeah, it's like that kind of distance of celebrity. You're like, oh, like that was totally fabricated in my mind. Mm-hmm. You're actually just kind of a person. And so something that I think in Christian culture and music, it's like I know that if my music is to go past a certain level, that's something I'm going to have to just embrace, that people are going to do that. Mm-hmm. But you just kind of rest in, people are going to very quickly find that it's not. It's nothing. You're nothing but great,
Right. Yeah. I've always wondered how I would ever deal with that. Like, not that it would ever happen, but it's just like, what if? I remember I was actually listening to a podcast with Paul McCartney was on, and he was saying how he always dealt with Beatles as like the biggest band of all time, pretty much. And he said that how he always dealt with it was that like when he was like off the stage or not doing music and just living his own life, he was a completely separate person than the Paul McCartney and the Beatles. He's like, oh, this Paul McCartney guy seems like a great guy, you know. And but I'm just me. So like if anyone ever came up to him, he would, you know, mentally act as if like, oh, Paul McCartney is a separate person than who I am now. I'm gonna try to get to know these people. So I don't know if that could be helpful to you or not.
I think there can be. I've thought about that. Like, and I'm speaking. This is. I mean, it's kind of says something about me now that I'm not to that level. But I'm thinking about like, what if I got there?
Yeah.
But I'm clearly not there. But if I've thought about how proper it is to separate personal life with music, even as you're writing stuff that's personal. But I've kind of come to that place where like, the stuff I write is just so personal that I don't think I could ever separate it. I think it's just I think what I've settled on is if I ever get to that point, just engaging in relationship where I can, being as honest as I can, and keeping myself. I mean, as believers, we have the opportunity to keep ourselves surrounded by people who are really, really grounding us. Not that people who aren't believers can't have that, but we can have another level of communion and fellowship that makes us feel properly small. And so I think what I've decided for myself is I never want to put myself in a position where I am always on the road or always doing music and I'm always in that place of people looking at me or looking up to me. I want my ordinary everyday life to be with the people of God or whatever 9-to-5 job I might be doing, and just pour myself into that and recognize that's my day-to-day life. That's the stuff I write about, even,
Yeah.
And the whatever celebrity or kind of hero worship could possibly come with that for anybody. That's just completely fabricated, and you can kind of let that slide off. You don't even have to like address it maybe too strongly, because people are going to do what they're going to do, but then you can just well, clearly they're wrong. Like I'm normal person. If they're listening to my lyrics, they'll know I'm a mess like a lot of the time. So I don't know. I've not gotten there yet. I may never get there because I'm not wanting to make this just my everything. But
yeah. Well, the thing is that like whether you like are between where you're at now and like Paul McCartney level, there's always a chance that you're gonna be that for someone. Because like, I can name some of my heroes that I look up to, and people will be like, "Who is that?" Like, oh, they're this musician. They have kind of a following, but like maybe they could go like live another, a normal life and not be recognized every day. But like you're always going to be that for someone. But I think what your attitude is perfectly healthy, because I think it can be easy, like even if you're a Christian artist in the Christian music industry, that can be easy to get swept up into the celebrity lifestyle. I mean, I kind of like what I do with my YouTube channel is like something I like to do is tell stories from the past, from the Christian music industry. And I've come across a few stories of people who were highly regarded, and then they just kind of got swept up into the fame and the whole celebrity of it all. Do you see that like being a pretty prevalent issue even in the Christian music industry today?
Yeah. I mean, I just think it's I think it's just the struggle of being in a public format. Yeah, I think it's a struggle in music. I think I was talking to one of my closest friends, a pastor, about this, where I said I would imagine it's similar in pastoral ministry too. Anything that puts you on a platform, there's I think the temptation to define yourself by that platform, define yourself by how people see you, and even feed off of that if you're not really grounding yourself in Christ. And so I think it's just a natural, it's not something that surprises me. I think it's just a natural thing in our circles. I do see a lot of that. Of course, I don't know people well enough to know the depths of their hearts, to know how much, somebody wandering away is because of the celebrity, or how much is because of hurt, how much is just sin. It's right. I can't speak to the nuances of that, but I do think there's even just the small amount I've experienced with music, and I've got like a couple hundred listeners on Spotify, so but I've like experienced just a taste of, oh man, this is I don't really want this too much. Like, this is not the thing that gets me up in the morning as far as just the notoriety, but it's still there when it starts coming. You're like, ooh, this is kind of like, even that audio.
Oh yeah.
I being on the stage for the first time in that kind of setting, and then manning a merch booth, there's a level to where it's like, it's properly fun and enjoyable, and you can enjoy that, and it can be cool to be in that setting. But I thought, oh my goodness, like day after day doing this all the time has to get to people in some way. Or maybe some people are just wired in a way where they can handle it, but I just can't imagine. I can't imagine being a musician all the time, having people looking at you, multiple people in one room at least, who are kind of doing the Paul McCartney thing that you're talking about, like elevating somebody to that level. And I can't imagine that not being at least a really, really difficult thing to push back against in your mind. And I think that's just natural. I don't think that speaks to, I think that musicians are all prideful people. I think we're all prideful.
True.
And just being in that setting, you just have to really be on guard and really have people around you who are reminding you that you're not.
Yeah.
You're not. You're just
you're not all you're cooked up to be.
Yeah. Well, it's so interesting to me. I think I talked about this with Chase a little bit, Chase Tremaine, on the Jesus Freak Hideout podcast. One of my favorite artists is Sufjan Stevens. And I think he's one of the most amazing songwriters of our generation. I think he's great. But some of the stuff he writes about is so heavy and so personal that for people to have this like sort of mystique about this guy and lift him up, I'm like, are you listening to what he's singing about? Like, this guy needs prayer. Not because
he needs help.
Not because he's so dark, but because like, look, like he's grieving things that like I resonate with, that I'm grieving with. And I think that's kind of going back to the previous thing about how to think properly about artists I love. When I listen to Andrew Peterson, he's singing about really personal stuff, and I think it makes it easy for me to be able to sort of keep from doing that, elevating to an unhealthy level, because it's like, this is a broken person who's sharing his brokenness,
right?
And so it would be foolish of me to raise this person to a level of like celebrity. But what's interesting is our culture, I think, now so values like honesty and brokenness in music that they actually, sometimes that can make other people idolize somebody more because they're so honest or so raw. It's kind of like, no, you're missing the whole point.
Yeah. See, that's the thing, is that like with a lot of people, like if you become like open and honest about a lot of the struggles in your life, you're going to connect with people who can relate to you. And then, because like I I do that too with a lot of the artists that I like. You know, they're open and honest about their struggles, and that makes you like them more because you're like, oh, your song like spoke what I've been feeling for so long. I love you. You're a hero, and also you know, there's a certain amount of bravery that comes with being vulnerable and honest, so people latch on to that as well. So I feel like no matter what you do, like if you do it well and connect with a lot of people, people are gonna like really look up to you.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Oh, he's so down to earth.
Yeah.
Incredible. It was the irony of that.
He doesn't care about anything. He doesn't care about what people think about him.
He's so down to earth. He's the greatest person I've ever met.
It's true.
Of it is so funny. But I do that. I mean, I can do that too. So I'm not blasting other people. I could do that exact thing.
Yeah, and it's not like that there's anything wrong with it. Like we latch on to people that we relate to, and like that's how what we do in everyday life in our relationships, and that's just happens to be how we latch on to like people that are maybe more famous than we are. It's just kind of inevitable, you know.
Yeah.
But
I think the good gauge to where we are in that isn't that. I think it's good to really, I think to admire those qualities in people is a good thing, and those are things we should seek after. We should seek after those even in, you know, musicians. But then when somebody inevitably falls short of what we've seen, I think our response to that is the true gauge of how we've been viewing that person. So like, you know, I bring up Andrew Peterson a lot because he's the best example I have of somebody who's really impacted me. He said plenty of things that I don't agree with. Plenty of things. So it's like, am I
what?
Like,
just kidding.
Yeah. But and nothing, you know, a lot of it's like stuff I've heard in podcasts where it's like it's not even necessarily super deep stuff. But if I was just like, man, like that's like, how could Andrew Peterson be fallible? Like that's when it's like, that's when you're like, okay, like just forget it. You're not viewing this person well. But to continue to be encouraged by someone's music and someone's art and promote that person's music and art, talk about it, like that's a great thing. So it's, you don't want to go the other way where it's like you never want to say or esteem the good qualities of somebody. But it's just a matter of, okay, how far am I taking this in terms of what I'm viewing this person as?
Right. Yeah. Like, you know, you got to give people room to be human for sure. And I personally wish that we would do that maybe a little bit more in terms of the Christian music industry. Because, I mean, you know, I have my criticisms of it. I mean, that's kind of like what my whole YouTube channel is about, is criticizing Christian music while also uplifting the good things. I just see what's like popular in Christian music, and I'm like, it's too clean, you know? It's like too like all these people that we see in the music videos and the worship videos, they just seem like too perfect, I guess, and like in their persona and such. It's like I wish we could promote, I mean, maybe also even in the music, which, you know, like worship music is a little different than like just like regular Christian music. But in terms of that, like I wish we could promote more honesty and openness, as long as it's not to the point where we're compromising what, you know, like any Christian message that we have, but just also just like let people know like, hey, we're humans, we're not perfect. God is, but we're not, you know. Is that something that you feel from time to time?
Yeah, something I feel like I want to put out like in my music, or something that or something that I feel from the Christian music industry.
I mean, yeah, I guess a little bit of both. Like, does that drive you to be a little bit more open and honest in your songwriting?
Yeah, it's definitely something I see in the industry. I think the word industry kind of implies that there's going to be some of that.
Yeah.
And I'm learning more about the industry from people who know it more, and trying to learn all the positives, because I'm very bad at self promotion, and I can go the other extreme. But overall, I mean, yeah, it really encourages me to write music that is uniquely from my heart and is transparent and honest. Not for the sake of honesty, um, but for the sake of bringing people into newness of life, however that, or for people who are already believers, just maybe helping aid them in their sanctification. How do I think about loneliness? How do I think about grief? And I don't have all the answers. Part of my writing is like trying to figure stuff out, you know?
Right.
But I find great value in artists um, who are really bearing their hearts, and to where when I hear their stuff, I'm like, oh, that's Andrew Peterson, that's, you know, Sufjan Stevens, even kind of going over into like the secular realm. It's like, oh, that's like Julian Baker, or, you know, there's these artists who just, they wear it all out there, and you know that it's this person talking, and and when you're doing that as a believer, you have the ability to wade into really heavy territory, but also bring this level of hope and truth, where maybe somebody hears the sad song I wrote, but because of how it's sad, they can know, oh, like I know this feeling, but I'm there's hope here, there's joy here, and Christ can make this place new too.
Yeah.
And I don't think that you can experience that if you're not willing to go there. And I'm not saying like, you talk about, I know exactly what you meant when you said Christian music is too clean. But you know, the other side of that is there are some people who think, well, if I'm not, you know, swearing constantly in the song, or if I'm not, you know, like it's not honest.
You can't go too far.
We don't have to get into that debate at all. You know, that's not something that personally bothers me too much, but it's something that for me, I'm like, I want to have stuff that is both really, really honest, but also inviting in a way too, to where people it's like simultaneously unsafe and safe. Yeah, like
right. Yeah.
That I'm sharing really heavy stuff, but maybe people don't want to wade into like the complexity of death and grief, but maybe I could be like a safe person to do that with in my songs. I think that's something that I desire. And again, that's all by the grace of God. And the reason it would be encouraging is because it's pointing to Christ. It's not because I'm just sharing stories that are just honest. Anyway.
Right. No, yeah, I think that's great. And I like the imagery of you just being like, yeah, there's some scary stuff that we should navigate, but I'll help you, you know. I'll help you along with that.
Yeah, because I can't help it, and you have to too. We all have to.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And music and art is like a great way for people to be able to explore those kinds of ideas, you know, without well, no, I lost my train of thought exactly how I was going to end that sentence, but yeah, absolutely. And I think that's great. I think you do a great job at that. And one thing that I also wanted to I don't know if you had like a time frame or anything of when you had to go or not. Just let me know. We won't be too long. But one thing I appreciate about your music is that, and I'm going to try and figure out a way to say this. I think you have a great balance when it comes to the subject matter of your songs, and a good mixture where you have your songs that are like very like heavily based in like faith and Christianity and like giving praise to God, and whatnot. But like your songs aren't like, that's not like what all your songs have to be. Like, I mean, you said that like your music points to Christ in some way, but I appreciate how, because not everyone has been really does that much anymore. People, like some artists just kind of decide how like all my music is going to be like praise music, and there are people that do it really well. Like one of my favorites is Josh Garrels, and like all of his music, he's amazing. And basically all of
just rediscovered Love and More and the Sea in Between, which
it's fantastic.
I've always known it's one of the best albums out there, but I feel like my heart just caught up the other day. It's so good. Anyway, just had to share. I've been listening to him a ton.
No, yeah, he's great. He's got a beautiful voice also. But like that's kind of like any song that you pick from Josh Garrels is basically going to be very like heavy in Christian theme, and that's okay. But I mean, some artists who are Christian, they not all of their music has to be very heavy in that. And I think you navigate both very well and without like any shock. Like there are some artists, especially in like the 90s, like I can say this as like I was a classic Newsboys fan. Like I would listen to an album, they'd have like some fun song, and then it's like, okay, now's the worship song that we're going to get into now, and it's just it can be kind of jarring sometimes. But I think and maybe it's just because of your style, you transition between both very well. Is that something in intentional for you?
I don't know that anything's ever
if any of that made sense of what I was saying.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. No, it's not. I don't know. I think what you see the psalmist doing a lot of the time, I'm not thinking of the Psalms directly when I'm writing a song, but I do think that as believers, this can kind of be the natural trajectory of our songwriting. You have the problem being presented, and then there's worship afterwards.
Yeah.
And I do that when I write, it has that kind of natural trajectory to where maybe the storytelling aspect of my songs is like very specific to place, and that's kind of the presenting the problem and presenting the things I'm working through. But then it all kind of, I think, naturally sort of funnels into a sense of worship, not necessarily like a congregational worship song, but that's where it's something that I'm, trying to do, but it's something that kind of tends to happen, which it's a mystery to me somehow.
It just kind of comes natural to you.
Yeah, I think I just can't sit in it too. I think my mind gets so dark that I know I can't stay there too long. And I know that if I'm writing a song that's not helping me move through it, I don't have any baseline for whether or not it's going to help someone else move through it. And so maybe I will say I have some songs that I've written recently that are more inclined to stay in it for a bit. But even those, someone might listen to a couple songs off this upcoming project and they might think, oh, this is just really sad. But I don't even really think about them in those ways. I think there's still some forward momentum and turning to the Lord in some way. Because I need that. I can't stay for too long or I'm gonna go crazy.
Right. Yeah. And you're not like just planning it out and being like, this is gonna be a sad album.
No.
I mean, that's great. I mean, I know for me, and I think this is the case for some other songwriters. I mean, we mentioned John Foreman. I think I remember him saying something how along these lines, like writing worship music, writing a song that is like worship to God is not always natural,
Mm.
like for me, because maybe it's because of how much worship music I've listened to. It's like, oh, I don't want it to sound like that. I want it to be my own thing. But then I'm like starting over, thinking like, just forget it. And I think I remember in a live video before, John Foreman was gonna play "Your Love Is Strong," and how he's like, uh, I don't write worship music that much, and this is like one of my few worship songs. But saying that, I think it's cool how for you it's just kind of a part of who you are, and you're just trying to express yourself, and your connection and your faith in God is so strong that it just becomes a part naturally from your songwriting. It doesn't seem like that you're just being like, okay, I'm going to write worship music now. It's just kind of the music that you're writing. Would you say that that's correct?
I hope. I'm thankful that that's really encouraging to hear. Yeah, I always, it's kind of like you talk about theology. I see this leaning with people that say like theology is not important and all these things. I think that's silly, but I think what a lot of people are responding to is that is people who kind of try to force the correct answer and are so like just kind of bang people over the head with books and stuff like that. And I think books are important, and I think that theology is important, but I really hope that as far as any of that stuff ends up in my music, I think it's inevitable that it will, but I want it to be a natural outpouring, not because I'm just trying to be doctrinal. I want my life. I think this is how it should be with all of us. And so my prayer for myself is that my life would just be a natural outpouring. I don't have to force anything. I don't have to force worship into my songs, that it would naturally go that way. Usually when I'm writing a song too, it's because I can't worship. There's something that I'm anxious about, or I'm devastated about. I'm trying to think through it, and it's kind of like the step into that process a lot of the time. And so I write more out of necessity, not because I'm trying to do something or make any statements or make anything about, make like a worship record that's I would actually love to make worship music, write and like stuff. That's totally songwriting muscle, and that I hope to develop down the road. But that's just not at the moment. I'm just kind of winging it, and I'm thankful that comes across, at least to you, because that's a desire of mine for sure. That would come out naturally. And
I feel like that if you ever like did decide like I'm gonna make a worship album, that you wouldn't have to stretch yourself too much, because I already feel it in a lot of the songs that you write already. It's just like there's just a worshipful attitude about it, and like maybe it's not like songs that I would recommend that a congregation sing, because they're personal, they're more like personal worship for you. But yeah, I feel like that you wouldn't have to stretch yourself too far if you ever decided to do that. But you said you're working on another project right now. What's that looking like?
Yes. So I'm always working on something, because I'm always working through stuff. But so I'm working on my third album at the moment, recording it, and it's called Home Enough for Now, is what the record is called. So I played the title track at audio feed at the end of my set, but
I think that's why I recognized that. I was like, wait, I feel like I know that title.
And so it's going to be going out to backers of Shelter Heart early when I get it done, and then releasing sometime next year, just on a broad level. But it's I lost my mom in January, and
I'm sorry to hear that.
it's tough. But
Yeah.
I didn't think I'd have anything to write about. I mean, I thought I would have stuff to write about. I just didn't know it was going to come so soon. And so it's just been 6 months of writing. I know some people who say wait for the storm to pass before you try to put the pen to paper. But for me, I'm like, that's just not how I operate. And so it's definitely, it's going to be a little more spare in terms of the production. I'm sending out tracks to my buddy Alan Odell, who we talk about producers. He's one of my just closest friends in the world. We talk every week, basically just to talk. He's putting out a record this year that is my favorite thing ever. Like, I love it so much. But his production is great. So I'm sending tracks over to him, and it's going to be a different kind of project. I don't know how I'm going to promote it on a natural level because it is so personal and it's very, very heavy, very grief filled. But again, like we're talking about, I hope that people who are willing to wade into the content are going to be, they're going to see the heart behind it and see ultimately worship. Because, you know, it's one of those things where it's, it's very, very difficult, but to be able to, I don't know, not to go off into a spiel, but I do see trauma is such a real thing, and the church needs to do the church circles that, you know, there's a lot of church circles that could do a better job addressing trauma, and grief and suffering. On the other hand, I see people identifying with every horrible thing that happens to them in a way that I think makes the suffering insurmountable, and that concerns me. And I didn't just write a record to just talk about that on a social level, but I've just written about my own experience grieving my mom. I'm still in the daze. Like it's been 6 months, and I still don't feel like I can think about it properly or you know, cry properly. It's so fresh. But even just broadcasting just the direct aftermath and being able to share, this is how I'm going through it, and I don't know what I'm feeling most of the time, and I'm a mess almost all the time, but I don't know where I'm at. But I do believe that Jesus, that I'm more than a conqueror in him, and that Jesus has meaning even in the lack of felt presence of Christ. Christ is there. And so that's what I'm praying. It's going to be a very heavy album to put out. And then I'm looking forward to writing or putting out hopefully the most exuberant, joy-filled stuff I ever had after this, just going the other route on before. But so I'm working on that. All that to say, it's very funny. I'm thankful that people are looking forward to it, but when I tell people I'm working on stuff, they're like, "Oh, that's so exciting!" I'm like, "Yeah, well, wait."
just wait till it's out. You probably won't feel as excited. I mean, if you're in the mood for crying, then you know. I mean, honestly, that can be some of my most favorite music is like when a songwriter is just getting like really deep into his trauma and his or her trauma or emotions. It makes me think. I don't know if you're familiar with Tyson Matzenbacher.
Yes, I've been wanting to listen more to his stuff recently. I just have that in my queue.
Yeah, he had an album called Letters to Lost Love that was written in the aftermath of his mother's passing. And so there's a lot of really, you know, raw emotions, but it's my favorite from him. I don't agree with everything that he kind of like with Andrew Peterson, but like as an artist, I have a lot of great respect for him, and Letters to Lost Loves is one of my favorite albums. But yeah, I mean, it's you know, it sucks to hear you know, of any trauma that anyone goes through, and especially hear from you. But you know, I'm looking forward to listening to that album and getting into the nitty gritty of all your emotions, you know, which feels really wrong to say. Like, it's like, oh yeah, I'm enjoying and I'm looking forward to enjoying your trauma or whatever. I apologize.
No. That's I actually think I have a sick sense of humor, so I think that's great.
Okay. I'm glad.
You know, and I mean I think yeah, what I really wanted to do, I want to simultaneously affirm that this world is very broken, and I hope that I can weep with people through these songs, and they can find affirmation in that this is real, and this is so hard, and it's not okay, and it's awful, but I also hope that it gives people the strength in that this doesn't have to define you. It doesn't have to define your relationships moving forward. It might in this moment because you're in the direct aftermath, but you don't have to. You're not just an accumulation of all of the worst things that have happened to you. When you're in Christ, you can overcome, even if that overcoming looks like just waking up in the morning and putting one foot in front of the other, and everybody else thinks you're just down for the count. You know you're not, because you're being as faithful as you can in the season that you're in. So I hope I pray that's what people get out of it. And it's heavy, yeah, lots of heavy stuff. But I'm looking forward to people hearing it. I'm looking forward to you hearing it, and so it's not. It is a weird thing to say, but that's how music is, you know. It's like we're all bearing our souls, and then it's like people are excited to hear us bare our souls.
Yeah, it's like, yes, hey, can't wait to cry.
But hey, if people are pointed to Christ and to His kingdom through that, then it's not mine anymore. You know, it's His. So but I can step away from my own suffering enough to maybe, you know, lay it down at the altar, and hopefully other people benefit from it. But that's really, really, maybe that sounds really strong right now, but like I don't feel that way most of the time. Most of the time I'm just weak and I'm trying to get through each day.
Yeah. I mean, that's vulnerability for you, you know? Yeah. So no worries about that. But yeah, I'm looking forward to how soon do you think that'll be out?
I'm not sure yet. I don't want to give a specific date until I know when I can send it out to people who backed Shelter Heart, because I really want to prioritize that's getting out to them well ahead of time.
Right.
And so I would say spring, summer of next year would probably be a good time frame.
Cool.
But yeah.
Well, maybe we can have you back on then when it's out and talk about it.
Sure.
When are you still like? Can people still back that album, or like
no? That's all in the past. I'm still fulfilling packages.
Gotcha.
But it has been a hard year, but I really want to still be very faithful to those things. So yeah, this is me fulfilling some packages pretty late. So I'm trying.
Okay, we won't add any more to that then.
Yeah.
But is there a way that people can find your stuff, support you, follow you online?
Yeah, Benjamin Daniel. I have a Facebook page and a Twitter page. They're both Benjamin Daniel. Instagram. I'm trying. I have like different handles for Twitter. I think is Benji Coons, so BENJI, and then my last
Benji
name
Coons.
B.
Okay.
And then my Instagram is Benji Daniel Music, because Benjamin Daniel, all of those were taken up, so I had to do handles for each. Maybe I'll get to a point where I can, like, I don't know, I can have
You can just have it and just
That's
kick them off.
Yeah, just kick them off. I'm the more important Benjamin Daniel.
I am the Benjamin Daniel.
Someone's
You are no one.
No. Oh, I don't know if the Benjamin Daniel is taken. Maybe I should try.
Oh, maybe the Benjamin Daniel.
I should try the definitive Benjamin Daniel. That would be super humble.
Oh yeah. Well, I wasn't even actually suggesting that, but I'm glad that you could take that. But awesome. So I think that's a good spot to end the conversation. Thanks so much, Ben, for being on the show. Anyone watching, you can be sure to I mean, this is self-promotion, but you can subscribe to my channel because I'm working on a video that Ben also appeared on about Audio Feed Festival. I'm still working on it, but I'm really liking the direction where it's going. I think it's going to be longer than I anticipated it would be, but that's okay. But yeah, we had a shorter conversation, but it's still some good stuff, and as well as conversations with a lot of other good people. But Ben, you stood out to me as someone that I would want to talk to further. And also congratulations on being the first guest on the show, on the podcast.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I mean, well, other than like I've had my girlfriend on just kind of co-hosting with me, but you're the first. Yeah, no, I'm the first one.
Yeah.
You are the first interview that I've done, and I think I want to do some more. I mean, it probably won't be like a main thing for me, but yeah. Anyways, thanks for being willing to come on here and talk about all the stuff.
Thank you so much, Clifford. Yeah, no, it means a lot to me. Your interest in the first place, getting to meet you at Audio Feed and talk was a blessing. So this has been a blessing. This is just a gift for me. So thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah, awesome. I'm glad you think so. Cool. All right. Well, yeah, check out Benjamin Daniel's music, and I'm figuring out a way to end this, but I guess we'll see you guys.
We could talk about Carl's Jr. or something.
Oh, well, it's never been Carl's Jr. for me. It's always been Hardee's.
It was for me until I moved out west. So now
to
it.
Which I guess that because in all the commercials, I mean, the old commercials are pretty naughty, but in all the commercials, it's always Carl's Jr. And I'm like, oh, I thought Hardee's was like the main thing. I guess Carl's Jr. is the main thing.
Yeah, I feel like I betrayed the South by calling it Carl's Jr. I've been out here too long, so we can end in there.
Yeah, we'll just end you with insulting the South. Anyways, thanks guys for listening to this conversation. Bye. All right, we're back. Well, I'm back. Wow. Okay. So yeah, that was a long conversation. I apologize. I mean, I knew that, but thanks, Benjamin Daniel, so much for being on the show again. Really appreciate it. I hope you guys enjoyed that conversation. Agent Serenity, interesting. Thank you for presenting us this, Clifford. It was really insightful and impactful. This is Agent Serenity on Twitch chat, by the way. Here's a useful fun fact, LOL. Arby's competitor was once named Roby's. What? But had to change the name to Roy Rogers after a lawsuit. Oh, I recently heard about Roy Rogers for the first time. I had never heard about it before. And some YouTuber guys that I watch did a fast food tier list, and Roy Rogers was a part of it, and I'd never heard of it. The history of fast food is truly amazing. Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, when I heard about that, I was like, was that started by Roy Rogers, the actor? Because I'm homeschooled, so I know about Roy Rogers. But yeah, that is really interesting. So they did roast beef as well. That's interesting. So yeah. Also, I wanted to again reiterate, I apologize for the black bars. I'm trying to point in the right way for the. Oh, I apologize for the black bars. We had some technical difficulties. Usually I use a virtual camera through OBS and now on StreamYard. I'm using StreamYard now, which seems to be a better program than Streamlabs, except for the problems that we are having today. I think I just won't have long videos for interviews anymore. Try something different, because that's when everything went haywire. And I apologize, but like after that, like I couldn't get OBS to connect to my camera again. And I thought, like, well, I don't want to mess with the stream again, so I'll just have, I don't know why, but I can't crop my camera view on StreamYard, as far as I know. So StreamYard, I need some help with that. Otherwise, next time it'll be different. But now we're dealing with the black bars, and I hope that that's okay. But again, thanks to Benjamin Daniel. You guys can check out his music. I got links to his music in the description. I think to social media as well. But you heard what his social media was. But it's some really good stuff. Really good stuff. Agent Serenity says, "Don't worry, the black bars make it look cinematic." Yeah. I like, it's like that aspect ratio thing. On a serious note, the struggle of getting caught up in celebrity life reminds me of the song "Shine" by Need to Breathe, made in the early days of the band. I'm not sure if this was the song's intention, however, it captures God speaking to the heart of man. I don't remember that one. I've listened to some Need to Breathe stuff, but not all of it, of course. Agent Serenity also says, excerpt of lyrics, and let the others see you've got your victory. Will you remember me? I was with you in the valley and up upon that hill. Can you see my hands are open? I am waiting just ahead, and you think you need it all now, but you needed me instead. That's really good. That's some good stuff, and I think that can definitely be applicable to when it comes to celebrity. In that, I'm working on a video now about John James. It's kind of on pause because of the audio feed video, but talking about John James, who was the lead singer of Newsboys. A lot of that has to do with what he went through. Agent Serenity also says, for songwriters or any Christian looking to make an impact but deal with those who see you as a hero for them, just view yourself as an available vessel for Christ. Scripture reminds us plenty times over of people who let their pride get in the way. Plus, we are all fallible humans and shouldn't be the ultimate authority on what God has stated. In gentleness, remind people of this. Of course, what they do is up to them, but to always possess that sobering humility is important for others to see. I mean, yeah, that's very sound advice. I don't really have anything to add to that, but yeah, I'm glad that you got some stuff out of that conversation. I think it was, especially that part, was a really good thing to cover in the conversation. It's something that we don't always think about, especially if you're like a young aspiring artist, a young aspiring Christian artist. There is a great deal of humility that you have to remember to bear, I'm sure. But yeah, if you guys have any other comments, anything that you noticed in the conversation that you liked, be sure to leave a comment. Really appreciate it. I realized we got to get to a few things real quick before we're done. I realized that I forgot all about some housekeeping that we got to do real quick. Hopefully. I'm waiting for something to load up. Got a couple of comments on the last episode that we did. Last episode was a really big one because we talked about deconstructionism. And, that's a big hot topic for today. So I appreciate everyone who watched that and was very courteous about it. But so Tall Dark Lone Ranger commented on YouTube. And I talked about Derek Webb, formerly from Caedmon's Call, about his deconstructionism, and Tall Dark Lone Ranger says, I read Derek Webb was touring with his evangelical wife and looking into Christ again about 2 months ago. That may be true. I'm honestly not sure, but the thing is that all you really got to do with these deconstructionists is look at their social media feed and the things that they post. And as far as I can tell, if Derek Webb considers himself a Christian, I don't know if he does. I mean, he may be married to a Christian, but I think they're both at very least progressive Christian, and that doesn't always mean Christian. I'm just saying, not judging here, and I'm not even saying that he's not a Christian. I'm not sure, but based off of what I see on his social media, he's just always posting about ridiculous things and that are just not biblical. And so that may be true, but I mean, the least that we can do is pray for him, pray that he finds his way back to the true gospel and to Jesus. Sorry, I'm gonna take another cough drop. Tall Dark Lone Ranger also said, because I announced my merch not last week, but in the last episode, he said, I think a cooler name may help sales with merch. Clifford Talks Christianity, or something better. I'm not too sure about that, because I try my best to keep this channel focused on Christian music. I know I talk about stuff like deconstruction, and then before that we talked about homosexuality and such. I only want to talk about those things if they are actually affecting Christian music, and those are some big things that are affecting Christian music. And so I don't want to be known as like the guy who talks about Christianity all the time. I want to be the Christian music guy. At least that's the niche that I try to say. Agent Serenity in the chat says, no, the name I'm Clifford today is too glorious. I think what he was trying to say in the comment was that that would be a good like other shirt to have along with I'm Clifford today. But I'm just agree to disagree. And I've been told when it comes to merch, you should come up with designs that are also not just exclusive to people who watch your YouTube channel. I have an idea to make a shirt that says "Make Christian Music Great Again." I just have to think of a design that I want. I mean, I could go with the like the MAGA look, but I have to decide if I want to do that. But I think that would be that people would like that. Like people who agree with that sentiment could be like, "Oh, hey, I like that shirt. Where can I get it?" "Oh, well, it's this YouTube guy. You can buy a shirt," So I might do something like that. But anyways, thank you anyways for the insight, Tall Dark Lone Ranger. And some other quick housekeeping that we have to do. So I try to mention this every time, but for Spotify listeners, for the audio listeners, I have polls and Q&As that I set up for every episode that people can interact with. And up until now, no one's really interacted with them before. So, but now there was a poll that I had in the last episode asking, do you think deconstructionism is negatively affecting Christianity? And of course, the polls were yes or no. Those were the options. And actually got some results. And it's split 50-50. Which that there was only a few people that voted, but I think it was interesting. If so, one person thought yes, 50% yes, deconstructionism is negatively affecting Christianity, but someone out there said no. I think that's interesting, and if you're out there, if you're listening right now, I'd be interested to know what why you think it's not. There was a question that I had that said, what are your thoughts on deconstruction? I think that would have been a good opportunity for you to share your thoughts, but it's okay. You can always leave a comment on a video and explain yourself, and that's okay if you disagree with me. That's what we're all about. So yeah, I think that is all for the housekeeping. Just one more thing to get through and then we're done. This is going to be a long episode, and that's okay. We had a long conversation, but we have some Christian music reviews to get to. Just a few things that I wanted to talk about. So we're going to do that right now. All right, look at that. See, this is another reason why I don't like the black bars, because I have these graphics that are set up and I can't. Anyways. So first we're going to talk about the Worship Initiative. Behold the Story. They came out with a new album very soon after their previous, they released their most recent Worship Initiative volume project, but they've released this new album, Behold the Story, and I listened to it, and it's a decent worship album and a good resource for access to good worship songs. That's kind of basically what Worship Initiative does, is that they take well, I wouldn't say popular, but they take a lot of worship songs that they like, and they cover them in a very simplistic but still very well arranged track. And I thought, since this wasn't a Worship Initiative volume project thing, it was under a different name, Behold the Story, I thought that it would be a little different, but it doesn't seem to really be any different than most of their other previous projects. So I'm just not really sure what makes this album special and why it was released just a couple months after their last album. It's just kind of a run-of-the-mill Worship Initiative album, which is not bad. It just didn't really speak out to me too much. There was still a lot of worship covers in the song. Some good stuff. They got some Sandra McCracken. They also do have some, Bethel songs. So if you're not cool with that, then, you can avoid the album. But I personally I'm much more comfortable with people covering the good Bethel songs rather than listening to Bethel themselves. I mean, because let's just be honest, Bethel, every once in a while, they'll have a good they'll have a good song. Same for Hillsong. So, but there's still some good stuff in there. But it's decent. It is a decent album, just not really sure why it exists. But yeah, I don't know. And then next up, speaking of worship, we got some Sovereign Grace music. And I'm a big fan of Sovereign Grace. And this is Unchanging God, songs from the Book of Psalms, Volume 2, live. Their previous album, Volume 1, I enjoyed. And in this, this is no exception when it comes to their quality of music. Very memorable melodies and beautiful arrangements. And the lyrics are just on point. And I mean, they're all based on Psalms, scriptures from Psalms. And so, of course, the theology is going to be quite sound. And they're just perfect songs for a congregational setting as well as for personal worship. There are a lot of songs that I put on my own prayer worship playlist. So I highly recommend Unchanging God, songs from the Book of Psalms, Volume 2, from Sovereign Grace music. And now, switching it up from worship to alternative, we got the big guys. They're back. Anne Berlin, which, speaking of which, we talked about them. Benjamin Daniel mentioned them. He's a fan. And so they're back. And I talked about their single last time, but now they have an EP, Silverline EP. Well, it's just called Silverline. And Anne Berlin are back and better than ever, in my opinion. I think this is a great little collection of new songs from them, and it's very fresh. It still feels like Anne Berlin, but it's very fresh. And one thing that I've always appreciated about Anne Berlin is that they're pretty hard rock band. I wouldn't call them punk necessarily. Maybe their earlier stuff was more punk, but they've always been inspired by a lot of 80s music before, like, 80s nostalgia in music was cool. They were always about that, and it's very prevalent in here. And it sounds great. I think it's amazing that they're able to still have the heavy sound that they have, and yet still have this great production, very 80s synth, new wave influence on the music, and it's some really great production. And they go in a lot of cool directions, and the songs are catchy as well. I mean, they're dark and moody, but I mean, that's Anne Boleyn for you, and still very catchy. So I'm glad that Anne Boleyn are back, and I hope they do a whole album again. I hope this isn't just a temporary thing, but they were always one of my favorite bands growing up, and so it's good to see them back. And last but not least, so last time we talked about Marcus Mumford, and I'm talking about him again because, yes, he is more known in the secular world because, Mumford and Sons is a secular band, big in the secular world. But Marcus Mumford is a self-professing Christian, and he's got his own solo stuff coming out, solo album coming out, and his new single Grace is out, and I think it's great. It's a lot more upbeat than the last single, but not any less profound. And I mentioned last time that pretty much this whole album is inspired by abuse that he was victim to at some point in his life. He's not been open about that, but he's being pretty bloody open about this in his lyricism, and it's I'm seeing a lot of themes having to do with forgiveness and grace, and that's what this song is. If you watch the music video too, you kind of realize, oh, the song, even though it's upbeat, it has more of a deeper meaning to it, and how grace is very cleansing. And yeah. So, and also I mentioned last time that Blake Mills is the producer, and his production identity on this is very prevalent in this one. And so Blake Mills just does a great job at experimenting with a lot of different sounds and keeping it interesting. So I highly recommend Grace from Marcus Mumford, and I'm really excited for the rest of the album. Agent Serenity says, "You speak in my language. I'll be sure to check this out." I think I assume that you were talking about Anne Boleyn. But yeah, I do recommend it for sure. So that is all I believe that we have for now. I'm sorry this has been a longer episode, but thanks everyone for checking this out. Thanks again to Benjamin Daniel, and yeah, also you can support me on patreon.com/I'm Clifford today. I normally do a Patreon bonus episode, but I'm just feeling too under the weather. I hope you guys will forgive me for not doing one for this episode, but next time. Which, speaking of next time, what we're going to talk about in the next episode, I realized I want a more like Christian music central episode. So what I'm going to do, we're going to do it. I'm doing the Newsboys discography tier list. I am currently listening through all of Newsboys albums, from their early stuff even to their more recent stuff, which I haven't really listened to a lot of. We're doing it. We're ranking all the albums, and I think it's going to be fun. So, and I'm going to talk about my thoughts of each album, so that'll make it more, for a podcast format. But I'm excited. It's going to be fun. And yeah, I think that's it. Don't forget, with my social media break, you guys can send me emails. You can send me articles to news stories that you want me to react to when we come back in September, when I'm back on social media. But yeah, also pray that I feel better. I am feeling a bit more energetic, but I feel like after the show, it's just going to come back to me. But yeah, I think that should do it for now. So if you liked what you witnessed today, leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts, and you'll get a shout out on the show. Podwood Forecast. Check out my other podcast with my friend Mitchell. We're supposed to be working on a new episode pretty soon, so that'll be out when it's out. Also, new merch. Link in the description to new merch if you want to support me, if you want to rep me, buy some shirts. And yeah, working on my audio feed, video, and other stuff. Busy time, I'm sorry. I don't know. I'm just really out of it. Anyways, you guys have a wondrous weekend, and I'll see you next time on the I'm Clifford Today show. Bye.